Welcome back to Medora Minutes, a Bible study designed to help you start your week with the Lord and in His Word. This week we will start our Bible study at Genesis 39, verse 21, and we'll proceed on to Genesis 40, verse 23. I've entitled it, God's Waiting Room. I hate waiting. I don't mind the planning process. I don't mind actually doing the work, but waiting is difficult. I don't know anybody that likes to wait. And yet that is exactly where Joseph found himself. He'd been sold into slavery by his own brothers. He had been falsely accused and thrown into the king's prison, likely in chains. And there he sat. There was no promise of a time that he would ever see liberty again. He had every reason to be mad. He had every reason to just sit and wither away and not do anything for the rest of his life. He had reason to be angry. But we have no indication that Joseph did any of that. He was put into a position of authority. He was put in charge over the prison. And yet that's where he was, in prison. He had new gifts given to him by the Lord. He could interpret dreams. And yet that's where he was, in prison. He helped other people, still in prison. He sent out messages to the outside, please help me get out of here. And there he sat, still in prison. Do you find yourself in prison? Do you find yourself waiting and waiting? Joseph waited. After he helped the butler and the baker, he waited an additional 2 years. We don't know how long he waited before then. It's difficult to wait. Ecclesiastes chapter 11 provides some interesting insights on what to do when you are waiting. It starts off with, cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Help many other people. Invest in other lives. Invest in other activities, because you don't know what's going to happen. In verse 4 of chapter 11 in Ecclesiastes, it says, he that observes the wind won't sow. What it's talking about there is if you're afraid to try new things, if you're waiting until the time is just right, you'll never get anything done. In verse 6 of chapter 11, Ecclesiastes, in the morning sow your seed. In the evening withhold not thine hand. Keep sowing, keep working, keep moving ahead. For you know not whether or which will prosper, either this or that, or whether they both alike will be good. Joseph did 3 important things while he was in God's waiting room. He did good work. He did the best that he could of the talents that God had given to him. And because of that, he was placed into a better position than what he had been before. He was placed in charge of the prison. I'm not saying that you'll get placed in charge of things, but you might. Do good work. Do your best work anyway. Secondly, he helped others when he could. There was no promise that he would ever get anything back from it. Except with the butler and the baker, they likely promised him, but nothing came from it. Help others anyway. And thirdly, and most important, he didn't stop trying. He had every reason to just stop and give up, but he didn't. He kept moving forward. Do you find yourself in God's waiting room? Do good work. Help others when you can. And don't stop trying. I want to leave you with a little bit of encouragement. It comes from the very first of our scripture portion in Genesis 39, verse 21. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy. If you are in God's waiting room, look for God. He will be with you. and he will show you his mercy. Meditate on this over this next week. We took our passage from Genesis 39:21 on through Genesis 40, verse 23. Also take a look at the beginning, the first 6 verses at least, of Ecclesiastes 11. God willing, we'll talk next week. Thank you for listening.